Hello, and you are very welcome to Cut Through the Noise. It's season 9 here of Cut Through the Noise. The podcast is all about helping business leaders increase sales through elevated communications and marketing. I'm your host, Aisling O'Rourke, founder of the Communications Coach, based here in the Republic of Ireland. And I work with business leaders who want to really grow their brand and communicate with clarity and confidence. In this season of Cut Through the Noise, we have focused entirely on social media as a marketing tool. It's really hard to believe that social media itself is almost 20 years if you think about the traditional social media platforms. And it's brought with it some major challenges, but also some fantastic marketing opportunities for big and small businesses alike. More recently, though, influencer marketing and content creation has just exploded. And influencer marketing is now a key part of many marketing campaigns. But it can feel like it's a bit of a closed shop, and it can be hard to know exactly how it works, how your business might engage in it. And quite frankly, many businesses avoid finding out more because they're afraid that they can't afford it. So that's why today's episode is focused exclusively on influencer marketing. I'm delighted to be joined by Conor Cochrane of Icon Management to really tease out exactly how influencer marketing works and how you and your business can leverage it for you and your brand. Well, I am delighted to be joined by Conor Cochrane of Icon Management. Conor, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here on Cut Through the Noise. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Ashing. Delighted to be here.
So, Conor, first things first, for people who don't know what Icon Management is, give us in a nutshell what is it that the company does?
Icon Management are a bespoke premium influencer management agency. In simple terms, what we do is we work with some of Ireland's top creators in terms of managing all of their brand and business needs, and obviously linking with them from the other side, which is a businesses who are trying to work with them, managing the campaigns as well on that side.
So you really are the connective tissue between, the businesses who want to get influencers on board for, say, a marketing campaign, but also then working on behalf of those influencers so that they have a sustainable business as well going forward.
Yeah, exactly that. Like I think the big thing probably if you go back a couple of years was even early days of influencers or creators online was a brand might say, look, I'm looking to work with you. The influencer might deal directly with them. And what ends up happening, the influencer creates a bit of content at the time. The brand expected something, it wasn't what was delivered. Both sides are unhappy with each other. They kind of go back and forth. So really a management kind of steps in, makes sure that it's a fair price for the business. That means they're going to get value and a return on it. Make sure that the influencer it's a fair price that represents where they're at in the market. And then it really actually makes sure that the campaign is very clear, detailed, the KPIs and everything is met from both sides. So everyone finishes the campaign very happy.
So then, I suppose when we look at influencers, even like on a personal level, you think of, global stars like the Kardashians or, Taylor Swift, like her engagement announcement got, I don't know, was it like 1 billion likes or something on Instagram, like something ridiculous.
Mm.
In an Irish market, like what is an influencer? What status do you have to reach to be able to be an influencer?
Yes, very good question, Ashley. And I think actually with the word influencer, often starts with the word creator, and that's often a word that you can start with because if you look at how an influencer becomes an influencer, it starts with an individual who creates content to a small audience. The audience like the content they're doing. They start to create more and more content like that. So they become an expert in that content creation and an expert in what they're delivering. So if that's like a beauty influencer, it might be like, I'm educating you on here's kind of the best makeup for going out this night, or if I'm fashion for summer, here's the best summer looks to buy and where to get these bargains and so on. So often it starts as an individual who has a passion for a particular area. They start creating that content. then all of a sudden the audience starts to build. And there's not like one metric that they become where they hit 10,000 followers, they're now an influencer. They definitely start with a point when you're in the single thousands to even 10,000, you're a micro influencer. So meaning that most likely you're creating good content, you're starting to get good engagement, maybe a small bit of paid work, some good gifting opportunities, but you're probably it's the next level when you go above that then that you have significant reach, you're into the tens of thousands, you can really probably start to get consistent, good paid work. And at that point, you're probably more classed as an influencer, if it is fair to say.
And I think like it has become part and parcel of marketing campaigns now, like, as one of the platforms
Mm,
or one of the areas that you might consider investing money in. But I think for independent business owners, they might not consider it as an option because and even from the people that I would speak to and my own clients think, oh, no, no, that's not for me. I'm not big enough. I don't have a big enough budget for that. And there's kind of, it's a psychological barrier. It's not necessarily a financial barrier because there's a lack of understanding. So break it down for us. Like, how does it work? Like, if as part of your marketing campaign, you do want to get someone who is well known, who is making content online to talk about it, maybe to come to your event or to talk about a product, like what kind of level are we talking at?
yeah, no, like so if you go back to the first thing, like a lot of small, medium-sized businesses as a marketing platform, an influencer is one model they look at. And I suppose us being an agency, and obviously we have other agencies in-house in terms of like paid agencies and all that, we understand what it's like for a business when they're deciding, I only have this amount of money. Should I spend it on Meta ads? Should I spend it on TikTok? Should I spend it on an influencer? Should I go to Google Ads? And that is a very challenging decision for any business. And there's no perfect one until you really get into a business to understand what is the mix that you need. And ideally for a business, probably nowadays, they probably need a bit of everything. And it's how do they stretch a budget to make that work, or do some of them they need to go very much unorganic and try make a little bit more noise, whether that's a smaller influencer or smaller organic reach. But let's say that they do think that an influencer is something that they really want to work with. Again, if I use that term, let's say we're talking a local size business, very small, I would be looking to say who is very much in that local region. So I'm from Mullingar. Is there someone in Mullingar that has 10,000 followers? That is probably a very reasonable following, but a very localized following.
Hmm.
And that following for my business would have a huge impact. So there's, let's say, for example, we manage the likes of Kaylee MUA, who has 500,000 followers on Instagram and 3 million on TikTok. But yet, if I was to work with an influencer who has 10,000 followers in a local town, they might just get exactly what I'm looking for. And in terms of budget, um, they might have a small fee to start, depending on where they're at on their journey. There might be some contra deal in terms of gifting and shared, whether it's an experience or a gifting product, whatever it may be. But there might be a small fee, very reasonable in terms of what the business can get back out of it. As you go in size as your business, in terms of if you're a small business that maybe has a retailer or sells online, and you're more now appealing to a more nationwide type influencer, obviously then you start going into your bigger influencers that have tens of thousands up to hundreds of thousands of followers. But again, the one thing I'd say is that if you're looking at an influencer to work with them once and think that they're going to make me loads of money in one go, that's not going to work either. So it's about how do you actually look at a campaign, because why would you work with an influencer? They have a trusted audience. So if I'm talking about one of the influencers in particular, they might have predominantly female audience, they might have predominantly Irish audience, they might have predominantly 25 to 35 years of age female. So I need to make sure my business matches with that. And now I know that if I do match with that, that when I work with them, they have the trusted audience of who I'm trying to reach. Doesn't mean they're going to convert them immediately. So that's the big thing I think that businesses often mistake is if I go and work with them, does that mean I'm going to make loads of sales immediately? Absolutely not. It's more like a campaign. How are we going to get associated with them? And maybe I need to look at working with them several times over a couple of months. And that even could look like that from a local level right up to some of the biggest ones in the country.
And like, it's like any marketing tool. Like, you might craft the absolute sexiest press release on the planet. It doesn't mean a national media outlet is going to
Mm,
take it up because something else bigger might happen on that particular day that you send it out. So it's not a one size fits all, and it's certainly not something that you're guaranteed success with, but you're not guaranteed success with anything. It's part of this overall strategy. So then and I think it's a really important point that you're making about that, the local creator in that is, hitting your niche target market. And when they align, you might not have a million followers, but, you could have a massive impact for that business or that brand.
Mm.
But then how does it work on a practical level? So like, you're say, I'm from Tullamore in County Offaly, I'm a local business person. I have I don't know, local hotel, and I want to start doing some more marketing in the lead up to, I'm not going to mention the C word, but seasonal activities or festivities. How do you start, engaging with the likes of yourself to start bringing an influencer on board as part of a marketing strategy?
Yeah, so if let's say we were working with that brand, and let's take it that it's a hotel, for example, where we would start is saying, okay, so you're coming up to, let's say, Christmas, you're looking doing a campaign. Are we targeting families? Are we targeting corporate? Or are we targeting couples? And you really start to understand then, okay, well, let's say we're targeting families. We want families to come here for a Christmas break. So now all of a sudden we've narrowed down the pool of influencers to family type suitable influencers. So now we go and say, okay, who would work with that kind of hotel in terms of their style. So let's say it was a five-star hotel, then we need to make sure that the influencer in particular, their following is maybe more of the type of audience that would stay in a five-star hotel. Or maybe it's actually we need to make sure that this is a three-star, family-friendly, leisure center hotel, excellent for family holidays. Okay, that's the exact type of influencer here that really talks to that audience, because you have to remember the audience that is following every type of creator or influencer is very, very different. And this is often where the mismatch happens, is people don't think even the first part through. So then when you really thought, okay, now we know what the type of, let's say, hotel, and what the type of campaign they're looking to target. Now over this side, we've lined up with this is the right type of influencer on the other side. So then we go and we say, okay, well, what do we think will make this work? Well, most likely it's going to be, in the case of a hotel, we're going to have to bring the family into the hotel so they can show off their experience and so on. So then there would be probably looking in their calendar, can we even get the availability of that in, because they might have a lot of events in. And then you look at pricing. So again, if you're talking a significant influencer, this wouldn't be gifted, so this would be paid. So we need to bring them down. We need to have an agreed fee and deliverables. So you're agreeing your fee based on deliverables. So if they're very strong on Instagram, that might be a feed post or a reel created, or it might be a set of stories. And if they're maybe strong on TikTok, you might be adding TikTok as a platform on that. So what you're really selling then to the brand is that we can say that on average, this person, when they post on their reels, they get, let's say, 100,000 views. If they post on their TikTok, they get, let's say, 50,000 views. And their story views are on average 30,000 for each slide. And we know that majority of them people are going to be this age demographic and will be family friendly following, suitable for the hotel as well. Then it's like that's what we can guarantee. That's what the influencer can guarantee. And then, like in terms of any other way, as you said, in terms of marketing, influencing is one of the most powerful ways of marketing, without doubt, and one of the most proven ways. Now it's up to the hotel in terms of, do they want to put an offer through that to try help with conversion on the spot. But in terms of delivering reach, engagement, awareness, then conversion will come the next part of the campaign. What else can be done? And that might even be an exclusive offer with the creator in particular.
And all of that planning really has to go in before that influencer is identified, because you have to know what it is you want and what you want to get out of it in order to say, well, that's the right person for this particular business, but also this occasion and our needs at this time. So then on the because you're in this unique position where you're kind of straddling both sides of things, what then makes it work from the influencer's perspective?
Yeah, I think influencers in Ireland, I think definitely some of the top influencers are excellent at knowing what brands align with them. So often, more than not, they'll actually end up turning down a lot of work. So let's say you might end up, if that got to the influencer and they were then making the decision, they'd be like, no, that doesn't align with me because maybe I don't have a family, for example. I don't know what the case will be in that, but they would say, that brand, I never buy from that, or I would never buy at that price point, or my audience would never buy that. So where the influencers are excellent is really understanding their audience. They won't put something in front of their audience unless they feel it relates to them and relates to their audience. And I think they're very, very good at doing that. And that's where you'll separate the top influencers from probably what you would say are just maybe average influencers.
And like, even like recently when TikTok Shop launched in Ireland, and there's loads of people giving out that, oh, sure, every second video I see now is an ad, and that turns people off. So, like, these content creators are excellent at knowing their audience and what their audience wants and likes and enjoys. So, if they say something's unlikely to work for their audience, we do have to trust them because they have worked at building up this
Yeah.
brand and the trust that people have in them.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where the influencer should really have creative freedom within reason, that certain key points need to come across in the content, but they know how to create the content. It shouldn't be us or the brand dictating what an influencer is an expert in their content. And I think that is often under recognized and underappreciated is the talent influencers actually have at understanding their audience and understanding the content they need to create for that. And I've seen with some of our own influencers where they'll be doing significant campaigns and they will book in their own makeup artist, their own video person to work with them for the day. They might shoot and prepare for that, or they might prepare for that for a couple of hours, that piece of content. They might shoot that content over a couple of hours, then get it edited, and it's just one reel on Instagram. And it's actually the preparation that went into that was significant, but it just looks like one piece of content, like a video was created. But you can really, the audience really appreciate that quality. On the same side, the audience is really appreciating original content, just not actually edited perfectly. On platforms like Stories and TikTok, they really are appreciating just show me it as it is. So there's the balance in place for the right type of content, and the influencers is best to understand that more than anyone.
So, if we understand then, like, what a business should be looking to do in order to really make a go of it, if they're going to engage in influencer marketing, and then the perspective of the influencer from your own perspective, like, I'm sure you've seen campaigns that have surprised you, that they've been so successful, but others that just didn't meet the mark. So what really do we need to keep in mind when we're engaging in something like this?
Yeah, often I think it's important from the business point of view is to take their personal interest out of it. So they look at what's right for the brand, not who they particularly like or they don't follow, for example. Because you might suggest someone, they're like, oh, I don't even follow that person. I'm like, but this is the person who delivers results for that demographic you're talking about. So that's who I'd recommend. This isn't like a personal choice in terms of, oh, I really enjoy their content, but maybe they're not right for you as a brand. So I think that's where the success starts. Is it's taking the personal element out, what's right for each side, the brand and the business, and what's right for the influencer. That starts the success. Then I think if you're very transparent with the brand, and I think that's what in Icon we do very, very well, is the team really make sure that the brand is the right match for the influencer, but the right deliverables and the right expectation on the other side. And maybe very much looking at like this isn't a quick win for anyone, for the business nor the influencer, because no one's interested in that, especially in Icon or the creators we manage. Maybe other creators that may be the case, but definitely not in that case. I can only speak on that behalf where they very much want to kind of work with, if I want to work with that brand, I want to organically mention it next week that I'm using that product or I'm going to that place anyways. So I'll get paid this week, but I'm probably going to mention them again next week anyways.
Now, Connor, we always like to keep some bonus content for our followers on YouTube. So, like, when you're considering engaging in something like this from a business, like, I know, say, like, content creators are businesses in their own right, mostly sole traders. Okay,
Absolutely.
they have their own needs and obligations that they must fulfill. We've mentioned, though, from the business side of things, like, really that communications piece is key so that you will be happy at the end of the day as to what is produced. So, like, what's the best way to work with an influencer to really communicate your needs?
Sometimes the business maybe wants to kind of showcase a bit of everything. So if they're If they're in a retailer, for example, they want to showcase everything they have. But sometimes it's actually to zone in on one or two products very, very particularly and say, just zone in on that product. And okay, maybe you can use some other products around that. And I think some of the campaigns do brilliantly because the creator can really zone in on maybe what's unique about the product or what's different or what makes the brand, why you use this brand in particular over another brand. Sometimes, again, when a business is quite keen at the start, they want to say, oh, yeah, we just want you to use our brand. And it's just like, or use our product. And it's just like, let's think about why and where and all that. So, again, that's a very probably important piece also to consider in it.
How important is, because I know you mentioned it there earlier, like how important is it to respect the content creator? It is hard work.
Oh,
Like it's not someone just playing on their phone all day. And I think sometimes as an industry, it can be disrespected, to put it politely.
oh no, absolutely. Look, again, often the top careers in the country have started from zero followers and built it up from scratch. And there's a reason why they've tens of thousands of followers, even hundreds of thousands, is because they have a talent and their talent is obviously creating content and creating content that a huge audience enjoy. And also they have a talent and an expertise in often what they showcase, whether that's fashion, beauty, whatever the case is, that can often get undermined. But the numbers they deliver is black and white, and people can't argue with that no matter what. Like I was doing a report on one of our creators the other day, and some of our content just for a client. They did two pieces of videos and they got 200,000 views on each one. And they did a TikTok that got, I think, just short of 400,000. And when you look at that versus, let's say, like, I suppose, average daily TV in an afternoon, like 6 o'clock show or any average Today show on any of the TV channels, they'll get up to 100,000 views at peak time.
Hmm.
So the TV carries maybe a lot more metrics, but yet as well, that's a very trusted audience on the creator side who follow them on a consistent basis. So I think when you look at to get a platform that can get hundreds of thousands of views on a consistent basis to a very particular audience is a talent. To be able to do that over and over again. And it's a skill to be able to obviously edit and manage that along the way. And also, like I touched on earlier, the preparation again of these top creators that go into their content to deliver that, it's not a coincidence that they deliver it over and over again because it's not that they come up on the spot and they think, oh yeah, I'm just going to create a bit of content here and that's it, and I'll have it done in 15 minutes. No, no, it's taken a day of work for one very good piece of content. And sometimes they'll create a day of work and it won't even ever get shown because they're just not happy with it.
Yeah, and like anything, it's there's many musicians I'm sure have Oscar-worthy theme tunes for movies that'll never see the light of day because it just doesn't hit their standards on that particular occasion. Connor, like it's been a fabulous conversation with you, and it's a really interesting area. We should say though, and I know we've mentioned it, fashion and beauty, like it's not just fashion and beauty brands that do this though. Like you've got micro influencers who are interested in horticulture or gardening. Like it really, there's something for every niche.
Oh, there is every single niche, every niche. And often, like when I've said, let's say an influencer might be an expert in, let's say, fashion and beauty because that just was an area that's easy to relate to people. But often, if you have a creator that has a very good following of a demographic and they primarily promote something, it doesn't mean another industry can't come into it. It's more the demographic you're looking at. If I'm, let's say, 25 to 35, what is it that I will most likely be relating to? And then if I'm an influencer, or if I'm an influencer 35 to 45, what is my audience relating to at that age? And like if you look at the journey of the average person that's going through that, maybe when they go from 18 to 25, they're following a career for one reason. When they go from 25 to 35, maybe an individual happens to be getting engaged or renting a house or maybe trying to even, buy a house. And what is that process? If you look, I've seen that on some of our creators' journeys recently. Some have got engaged recently. Some have started the mortgage process and have shared how difficult it is for people. So again, it's very much relating to the age, and I've seen others of our creators who have kids, and it's back to school
Yeah.
and the journey like that. So if you look at from a follower point of view, you're only going to follow what's of interest to you. as a brand, you're only going to then match with the right influencer that matches with the right audience. So I think that's a lot to probably take into account as well. And if I was to give one bonus thing as well for brands to consider is probably usage. Like if you work with an influencer, consider actually working with them on a paid usage. And by usage, what I mean is that the piece of content they create for you, can you actually get usage rights on that for a limited time? That could be 30, 60, 90 days. What that will allow you to do then is to run the content on your own page and to put paid ads behind it. So now you can amplify that content to an audience consistently or a wider audience to bring them to your own page over and over again. And that's becoming a huge part of the influencer space at the moment.
And look, it's an area that's only going to grow. So, we all have to
Yeah.
learn more about it and get in on it. Well, Conor Cochrane of Icon Management, thank you for joining us on Cut Through the Noise. If people want to find out more about Icon and your other brands, what's the best way to find out more about you?
Yeah, Icon Management, we have a very good Instagram page. We put up little tips on that. We obviously have our own website that people can contact us through. For myself, I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to find me there, I'm probably linked to our other businesses we have there as well, more digital services.
Conor, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Ashling.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Cut Through the Noise. I hope you found my conversation with Conor useful, particularly if you've been curious about influencer marketing and wanted to know more about how it works. And I love the opportunities that I get doing this podcast. I get to meet with fascinating people who work in areas that we don't necessarily always get an insight into. So I am really pleased that Conor was able to take time out to have a chat with me today. And I did find his point about local micro influencers really relevant. And I think that's something that you should consider. Are there influencers? Fair enough. They may not have 10,000 or 15,000 followers. Maybe they only have, 5 or 6 or 7,000. But are those followers in your locality and really engaged? And are they aligned with your marketing objectives? It's certainly something to consider. If you'd like to explore how I might help you as part of your communications and marketing, you can get in contact with me on all the usual social media platforms, thecommunicationscoach.ie, or by email at hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie. And yes, all of those links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for staying tuned to Cut Through the Noise. I can't believe we're in season 9, and I do hope that you've been enjoying the journey. But do remember that it is a noisy world, so you need to communicate with confidence, clarity, and authenticity if you want you and your brand to stand out from the sea of sameness and cut through the noise. Have a great week.